Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so tell me what should be done here. Let's continue from here. So what should I add here for a secret key? How am I going to add?
Like we have to configure it, sir. App.config
Right.
secret key.
I'm going to create some random secret key. Something like this. Okay. All right. So that is my secret key, and that's it. And I have set my login view as login, right? And we need a user loader to be set. This will be used by Flask to do the session management to check, okay, is that a valid user or not? I'm going to create one class in the util, or maybe in the models, I'll create a user model. Class user. Tell me what all is supposed to be here. So user module generally should inherit from
User mixin
right.
Flask language.
Right. So we are supposed to take. So what is the model that we have created for user? Let me just take everything from there. Name, email, password, active. Okay. Def underscore underscore email, name, password, and email name password is active. Okay. For is active, I'm going to use a default parameter. I'm going to set as a true. Self dot I'll also use ID. ID also I'll make it default as none. I'm going to call it as user ID, and I'll keep that as also as none. User ID self dot name is equal to name, self dot email is equal to email, self dot password is equal to password, self dot is active is equal to is active. So these are the things, and this basically supports two functions which should help us to talk to the database and get the respective data. I'm going to call it as a class method. So def get user by ID. So I'm going to pass user ID to it, and based on the user ID, it should return the user value. So before this, if I want to talk to the database, right, I need a connection, DB connection, and things like that. And how do I get a DB connection?
Yes, sir.
Right. So DB connection, let me just use util to create one file that basically creates a db.py, right? So class DB connection, right? So it requires certain fields like DB name. What is the DB name? In the schema, we did define library
Library
management.
management.
Let me go back here, library management. And we want who is the DB user. So let us go with the default user, which is Postgres. And we need a DB password, which is a default. So this is the password that I have kept. You might have, it might be different for you guys. So DB host, since it is running in my local host, it is going to be localhost. Port is equal to, what is the default for port? 5432
5432.
PG. Okay, so this is my DB file, and I want a function within this with basically returns a connection object. I'm going to create the rate class method get def get db, or let me just say get con, right? Return. So if I have to connect to a DB, what is the package that I need to import?
Psychop, sir.
Import psychopg2, return psychopg2 dot connect, but connect here. What is my DB name, right? DB name is equal to db underscore cls dot db underscore name, right? And you want who is the user, cls dot db. So they are all class variables, right? So that is the reason I'm using class method. Password is equal to cls dot db password. So if the local host and port, since if you don't provide, it is going to take a local host, and port is the 5432, as that is the default one. Okay, this is pretty much it, right? So this will give me the connection object, which is fine. And the util, I'm going to create one Python file just to manage my queries. Queries.py. So here I'm going to write all my queries. So for example, get user by ID is equal to select star from user. What is the user table name for us? It is going to be employee, and we have student. So the login is only managed by employees. So I'm going to take that employee as a thing, right? Select star from employee where ID is equal to percentage yes. So that gets replaced at runtime. Okay, then get user by email, right? Same thing I'm just going to copy, but instead of ID, it will be email. Okay, sounds good from here. Now let me go back to my user model. So here, let me import from util.db import db connection. DB connection dot get connection. Connection is equal to db dot connection, right? Then what is the next thing? Cursor is equal to connection dot cursor, done. And user ID should always be integer. It should not be. So just in case if it is not integer, I'm going to convert it to integer. Right. So I have this now cursor dot execute. That I have to execute a query and pass the parameter. But where did I write my query in? From util
Queries
dot query import get user by ID and get email by ID. So now get user by ID and parameter as user ID. Okay, and user ID should not be none. If not user ID, right, return, or let us say raise value error, invalid user ID, user ID. Okay, done. So done. So executed. This will execute, and we have to take the response now. Result is equal to cur dot fetch one, right? If result, then return. I'm going to create an object for this user model, right? Since this is a class method, CLS and user model class name are one and the same. So you can use either this way and pass the respective values, which is ID, email is the order, basically whatever is the order here. The first here is ID, name, email, password, active, right? First one it would require is ID, but what are we passing here? Email. Let me do one thing. So let me just take. Okay, so here result of 0 will be my ID, right? Result of 1 would be the email. Result of 2 would be name. Result of 3 would be my password, and result of 4 would be my is active, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, email, password, right? Okay, this is my model, right? Now def, I'll create one more class method. So which is pretty much same. Instead of get user by ID, I'm going to create another function, get user by email. So instead of user ID, it will be email ID. Email ID is a string, so I don't have to convert anything. Right, so I get a result set, and get, instead of get user, does get email, get user by email. Done. So we are good. But if you see, right, in both the places, this code is repeating.
Yes, sir.
Just apart from this query and this parameter, this code is repeating. Now, to avoid that, what I'm going to do here is at the rate, I'm going to create one more class method, and just going to say def get user data, what I want is query and params, right? So irrespective of what, I'll get the connection and I don't care about this. I am just going to params and this I'm just going to pass query. That's it, I'm good. So now what I'm going to do here, cls dot get user data. I'm going to pass my query, which is get user by email, and I'm going to pass my parameter, which is ID. Done. Okay, so here also the same thing. Now I have made that function a common user ID, get user by ID. Done. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if the email ID is not found, I'm going to say return none. Done. Now here, let's go back to our app.py. Now this is very simple. So what did we do in the app.py? Now I have to import my user model. Where is my user model? From models, import user model. User model dot get. What happened? These are class methods only, right? The ones that I have created. Yeah, they are. And I'm going to pass that same ID. And that's it. So that is all my user loader function looks like. Right. Now let us try to have a registration page, not registration page. So what generally happens, okay, let us do one thing. Let us create a registration page for the employee. Okay. How does our employee table looks like? It only has created on. Okay. So that's it. This is our primary thing. From here, what we will do is we will start writing our routes. So first two things, right, at the rate app dot route employee slash register employee registration page. Okay, def employee registration. Right. So this is mostly get return render template. I want to render template from the Flask import. Flask can also import render template. And if I want to take the form data, I also need one more thing called request. And if I want to redirect, I need a function called redirect. So I'm just importing all of them together so that we can directly start using it here. Render template. I want template name. Now, if you look at my project, my templates folder is just empty. Yes, my
Yes, sir.
template folder is empty.
Yes, sir.
I should create some templates, right? So let me do one thing. Okay. What do I do? So Bootstrap is a very famous CSS framework. So if you want to use, you can use Bootstrap to make your UI look much better, right? So we'll just use certain bootstrap registration HTML and so on. So this is a very simple form. So the form looks something like this. Okay, so we'll try to copy this and probably come up with certain changes. Do one thing. Look at this. Go back to our project. So here I'm just going to call it a HTML file registration.html. So here clean everything. Paste the one that you copied, right? So here, since there is a CSS, I don't want to put my CSS here, right? So I'm going to take out my CSS and I have a folder called static. So in this, I'll create another directory called CSS and all the styles I'm going to put here. Use the same thing for where is refractor? Okay, so that is fine. I have put my this thing here. Okay, cool. I'm going to remove this. Okay, so it is using a bootstrap. Registration page. So what all we want? User to give right,
ID.
so we want to give ID and name for it. And so this, let me just fix this. Okay, cool. Let me just maybe format this. Okay, cool. That is fine. I'll format. We can format later. So what we want is placeholder, your name, your email, your password, confirm password. We'll take those two, and active is managed by us. Okay, cool. I think that is good enough for us. And I'm going to give certain two fields, which is form content, and this is a class form, and this is a form content. And if I just submit, it has to take the submit. Interesting. Some right. Just a second. Just trying to format. So then we are good. Okay. So we'll see. First, we'll try to render this page. And from here, render template. registration.html, done, and nothing much here. So let me just try to run this first. Okay, employee must start with a slash. So did I miss it? Yeah, so it should be slash employee. Done. So let me just say debug true. Okay, let me go back to the browser. Let us say localhost colon 5000. So which means if you see not found, it is running. Right. So you're getting this basic HTML.
Yes, sir.
Right, email address, your password, enter email address. I think this can be removed from here. Your name, your phone, email. No. So address and all is not needed. So those section we'll just get rid of it. Your email, your password, confirm password, and done. So we don't need anything. Right. So that's it. So the action is not there. So this is not a form object, so to speak. Right. So let me just add a form object on top of it. So all of this will go into a form. Action, where should I submit this?
Employee slash register.
What is the method?
Post.
Right. Okay. And is there anything else? Nothing. So this is my form. It says a registration form and done. We'll put this guy here. I think, yeah, after body, after one div, I have added this. Fine. Seem okay. Right. For every input tag, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a ID is equal to name. Name is equal to name. Right. Type text. And I'm going to say this is required. This is required. ID is equal to email. Name is equal to email. And again, even this is now type is also email, not text. So this I'm going to say required. All right. So from here, again, password is not text, but password type is password. ID is equal to password. Name is equal to password. Okay. And this is also required. That's it. Only this will submit. So this the secondary one we'll just use to confirm whether the entered one is valid or not. Okay. What I'm going to see here is on click validate password. I will create one function, JavaScript function to validate it. So before that, ID is equal to password 2. Okay. So at this HTML, are you guys practicing, not practicing?
We are practicing, sir.
Okay, because HTML is not a big thing. Okay, it's a very, very basic thing. It's a very, very basic thing, not so big deal. But I want you guys to understand. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay, so form also I'll give some ID. So there is my form here. And I'm not this above it. Rich form is the ID that I'm giving. Okay, so here now I have to perform certain JavaScript operation here, right? So to check if two passwords are valid, right? If two passwords are valid, right? That is how many of the sites work, right? So if password, they will ask you to enter password 1 and password 2, and you have to basically validate if they are correct. Okay. Now
Okay,
what
sir.
I'm going to do here, I'm going to write one script function. Function here in JavaScript, if you want to define a function, you call it as a function. So in Python, you have indentation. In JavaScript, you will put a curly braces and then basically you will write your code. Okay. So password 1 is equal to document dot get element by ID. What is the ID that we gave? Password dot value. Password 2 document. What is the name that I had given? Password and password 2 dot value. With this, I'll get two passwords. Log password 1 comma password 2. Let me check if I click of that, will I even get right? Will I even get here is this? Okay, this one, right? Let me reload. So inspect console submit. So E is not defined. That is because how come it says E is not defined? Because I on click, I am going to submit. One click validate password event. That should actually work. Validate password and whatever. Right, so this is actually correct. Event. One click reference error. Actually, do I need an event? I don't need an event. Why do I need it? Okay, yeah, I need because I'm trying to prevent a default. And click. One click test, and then I'm passing this and 10 clicked element, and this is what I'm going to get. But I'm which not getting that. Event. Password, I'm just going to call it this. It should not matter, but event.run is not a function. Okay, where did I write that? Okay, now we are getting a call here. So I'm preventing a default. Refresh it, done. Okay, somehow it is not printing anything. Okay, it is basically empty because I did not type my passwords, right? Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Right, submit. So basically we are getting, now we are checking if they both are equal. If one equals to password 2, right? I am going to submit the form. I'm going to submit the form. I'm going to submit the form using a JavaScript now, using a JavaScript. So how do we submit that? Simple. So from the same thing, I have to given certain ID for my form, a registration form. Form identify that and submit it. They are same. Okay. Else to take a different route. Right. So all right. So here that is a submit. To that, what do I want to do? Yeah. So whatever. So what I'll do, I'll just put some dummy p tag here. For error, and it will not have anything. I am going to use that. Document pod get element by ID. For error dot inner text is equal to passwords not matching. Let me see if that comes. So what I'm saying here, let me reload. Something I enter, something I enter, so they don't match. And if I click here, so we are getting passwords not matching here.
Yes, sir.
Right? And